Thank you for joining us this evening. On behalf of Sodel Scole, we welcome you to our second annual Literature Showcase. My name is Karen Barbro, and I'm the director. Sodel Scole is a classical Christian homeschool group, and we meet together here weekly for enrichment in Bible, history, literature, and science. And so what you'll be seeing tonight is just a showcase of what we have been learning throughout the year, and we appreciate you taking the time this evening to join us and to celebrate what we have been learning. The showcase is not to show off necessarily our students, but to give honor and glory to God. He has taught us much about himself this year, about his word and his world, and so we are excited to share that with you. The presentation this evening will actually be in two parts. We're going to begin shortly with our preschool class, and they have a short presentation to share with you, and then we will begin our production of the Iliad. All told, it should probably be under an hour. So we'll open in a word of prayer and begin. Please join me. God, thank you for this evening. Thank you for each family represented and the hard work that has gone into this evening. I pray that you would bless our students and our families. And God, most of all, I pray that you would be honored and glorified in everything we say and do this evening. I pray that you would receive all the honor and glory in your name. Amen.
Good evening. My name is Brooke Martin, and I run the 4- and 5-year-old program here. So our goal for this age has really been to learn by play. We follow the same scope and sequence as the 1st through 8th graders, but it's more of an introduction to the terminology that the older ones are learning. And we reinforce that through crafts, games, songs, all kinds of stuff, all kinds of fun things. Now, the past few weeks, we have been reading, along with the older ones, a version of the Iliad and the Odyssey. And we've also been reading some Aesop's fables. So tonight, we are going to present 2 of those fables that we've read about. We will be doing The Fox and the Crow and The Lion and the Mouse. The Fox and the Crow. One day, a crow was out searching for some food. She came across a nice piece of cheese. She grabbed the cheese with her beak and said, "What a lovely piece of cheese! I will keep it all for myself and not share it with anyone." She flew to the top of the tree. After a while, some mice came along. "Crow, please share your cheese with us." "Oh, no, I will not share my cheese with you." The mice were sad and hungry, so they scampered off looking for food in the woods. Then some dogs came along. "Crow, please share your cheese with us." "Oh, no, I will not share my cheese with you." The dogs were sad and hungry, so they bounded off looking for food in the woods. Finally, some horses came along. "Crow, please share your cheese with us." "Oh, no, I will not share my cheese with you." Then along came a fox. He said to himself, "That cheese looks delicious." Then he had an idea. "Good morning, Crow, you beautiful bird." Crow, not being fooled, says, "I know what you want. All I want is to hear you sing. You must be queen of all the birds, and your voice must be beautiful. I would love to hear you, but maybe I'm wrong." The crow was very flattered. "Wait, Fox, come back. I'll show you how beautifully I can sing." So she opened her mouth and the cheese fell out of her mouth and onto the ground. The fox picked it up quickly and said, "Thanks very much." "Crow, I tricked you." Off the fox went into the woods looking for another breakfast. The moral of the story is, don't fall for flattery. The Lion and the Mouse. One hot day, a lion was asleep in a cave. Suddenly, a little mouse ran over her paw. The lion woke up with a loud roar. She grabbed the mouse with her paw and said,
I'm going to eat you.
Please, Miss Lion, don't eat me. Somebody will help you. Someday I will help you. Ha 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 ha. You help me. Don't make me laugh, but I'm not that hungry, so I will let you go. The lion laughed, and the little mouse ran home. A few days later, the lion was out in the jungle. I think I will scare my friends. I am very scary because I am queen of the jungle. Suddenly, the lion got caught in a trap and said, "Oh dear, how will I get out of here?" After a while, she heard some elephants. Elephants, please help me. Oh no, we will not help you. Then a few giraffes passed by. She cried, "Giraffes, giraffes, please help me." Oh no, we will not help you. The lion grew cold and hungry and began to think she would never get home to her nice warm cave. As night came, she heard some owls. Owls, will you please help me? Oh no, we will not help you. She began to cry. Then she heard the squeaking of a mouse. Why are you crying, Miss Lion? I'm stuck in this trap and nobody will help me. Then the mouse said,
I will help you.
The mouse began to bite through the rope, and at last the lion was free. I'm free. I never thought you could help me because you are too small. From then on, the lion and the mouse were good friends. The moral of the story is,
Even little ones can do great things.
Those adorable little animals are going to come find their way to you parents, so you might want to stand and flag them down. So that actually is a perfect showcase of what we do on a regular basis. So Del Scole exists to equip families to educate their children classically so that their children can go out and engage the culture for Christ. That's our purpose, to fill their heads, yes, but to capture their hearts and to send them out to do God's will in his world. So things like Aesop's Fables are a great way to teach them truth, even from an early age. This year, Del Scole has been learning about all things ancient history. So Bible and history and literature and science have all integrated together around that time period. So in Bible, we've been studying God's word chronologically this year and seeing how things line up historically. In science, we've been looking at ancient discoveries and inventions and how they fit in the story of science. Obviously, we've been talking about the famous people and events that happened in ancient history, but we've also been reading books either written in ancient history, such as the Epic of Gilgamesh, or books set in the ancient time period, like the Bronze Bow and the Golden Goblet. So these last 6 weeks, we've been immersing ourselves in ancient Greece, and we've had a lot of fun. Just last week, this auditorium was transformed for our Scole Games. We did our own version of the ancient Olympics, which was a lot of fun. We've just finished reading together a children's adaptation of the Iliad, entitled Black Ships Before Troy by Rosemary Sutcliffe. So I'm not going to ask for a raise of hands, but I would dare to say you're probably like me, that you had never read the Iliad before. And you might think they are crazy to undertake reading that type of work with such a young age. I would counter to say it's actually crazy to not take advantage of the opportunity to teach them that story at such a young age. These kids are ripe for the wonder and the excitement and the enthusiasm of a good story. And when told well, it is a beautiful thing. And I think you're going to see these kids know this story now, and they love it, and they are excited to share it with you this evening. So let's again open in a word of prayer, and we will tell you Homer's epic tale of the Trojan War, the Iliad. God, thank you again for meeting with us, for being with us here this evening. Thank you for good stories and the opportunity we have to tell them well. I do pray for our kids. I know they're nervous backstage, but I pray that you would calm their hearts, give them your peace, help them to remember all that we have worked on, God, and I pray that they would do this story justice. I pray that you would be honored and glorified in our telling of it this evening. In your name I pray. Amen.
The story you are about to hear is one of the oldest of soldiers' tales. It is a story of honor and infidelity, of devotion and betrayal, and of love and war. It is a story of families and individuals and the tragic consequence of a single act. Its themes are universal.
Our story takes place in ancient Greece around 1500 BC. The gods and goddesses are celebrating a wedding. Unfortunately, the goddess Strife has been left off the guest list, and in anger, she spoils the wedding by throwing a golden apple into the crowd. Engraved on the apple are the words, "To the fairest." Of course, all the goddesses claim it, and the task of deciding falls to Zeus, who, unwilling to get into the middle of the argument, recalls a story he heard of a mortal named Paris, who lived on Mount Ida near Troy and was the most fair-minded of mortals. He sends for him.
Now, Paris, born of the king and queen of Troy, what is your judgment? Stands before you, queen of gods, goddess of wisdom, and goddess of love.
All are fair, never have I seen such beauty. It is too difficult to decide that it is.
Gentle Paris, behold the depth of my character and the fidelity to my family. My cheek is as a rose, delicate and fair hued. Am I not the fairest? Say yes, and I'll grant you a happy home.
Strong Paris, behold the strength of my character, and the owl on my shoulder, a symbol of divine wisdom. Am I not the fairest? Say yes, and I will grant you great power. There, Paris, behold.
Aphrodite appears to Paris, having just washed her long hair in the river Scamander. Her tresses are a halo of golden highlights. He is awestruck.
Judge me the fairest, and I give you the most beautiful woman in the world.
Paris bows before her and sets the golden apple at her feet.
She, Aphrodite, is the fairest of the goddesses. That's my judgment.
Hera and Athena are enraged and storm out of the wedding.
Now, young man, beware, you have offended the goddesses, but for now, the fairest will lead you to your prize, the most beautiful woman in all the world. Helen of Sparta.
Paris is taken to the house of Sparta, where he is treated with great hospitality by the king, Menelaus, and looked on with loving eyes by the queen, Helen. Late one night, Paris and Helen flee the kingdom and sail for Troy, infuriating Menelaus.
Greek leaders from neighboring kingdoms assemble in Mycenae, the home of Menelaus' brother Agamemnon and his wife Clytemnestra. Their purpose to sail to Troy and demand the return of Helen. Many of the men had been Helen's suitors before her father chose Menelaus to be his daughter's husband. Fearing they will rise up against him, Menelaus makes them swear to defend her from any harm. The Greeks try to sail for Troy, but because of an insult to the goddess, they lose a third of their fleet to raging coastal storms sent by her in anger. A seer is consulted, and the Greek leaders learn that only the sacrifice of Agamemnon's daughter will appease the goddess.
You have came here to defend my oath. My wife has been stolen from me. We have to go to Troy to get her. How many miles have we traveled? We've gone nowhere. But if it weren't for the Winds, we would be there already.
I would defend my oath, but the goddess's wrath overpowers us.
It'd be best I go no further. My wife yearns for her protector and his son, his father.
I am ready to fight. I would defend my oath to the death. My honor cannot be restored until Helen is returned to you. I'll follow my friend Achilles to the death if need be.
Gentlemen, my dear wife cannot take the strain. My daughter will not go like the lamb to the slaughter. I understand your distress over the loss of your wife, Menelaus, for she is my sister, makes my heart rage for vengeance also, but not by the sacrifice of my daughter.
Woman, the decision must be made in consultation by the alliance. Your feelings cannot be taken into account.
Although he doesn't show it, because of his unsuccessful attempts to launch the ships, Agamemnon's mind is made up. He has heard murmurings of discontent and talk of installing Achilles as their leader.
Guards, bring my daughter. We have spoken.
I understand the situation, father, and I will willingly go to my death.
We must get a fair wind of Troy. We sail tomorrow.
The Greek forces get their fair wind for Troy, but once on the shores of Ilium, they are faced with the great walls of the city itself. For 10 years the Greeks lay siege, but they cannot breach the walls of Troy.
Their encampment on the beach is full of discontent. Soldiers fan out into the countryside and up and down the coast, burning and looting neighboring villages.
Behold, these two fine slaves. Oh, sorry. Look at all the gold we have filled. Divide it up, Ajax. Behold, these two fine slaves, daughter of a priest of Apollo.
See to his job, for they are cousins.
Speak, what are your names?
My name is Briseis, and I am a daughter of a priest. My name is Chrysius, and I'm the daughter of a priest.
I understand you've been raiding the villages, but Apollo is angry and has rained down big Jerusalem soldiers. I've been forced to give up dear Chrysius in the hopes you will stop. So, Commander, I command you to bring me Briseis to make up for my loss. Take her to my tent, get some sleep, we'll attack Troy at dawn.
I refuse to give up Briseis. I have grown fond of her.
There are others.
Dear friend, you must obey your commanding officer.
Perhaps by a clever scheme we may win her back.
We take her by force. No good can come from disobedience, and trickery can turn deadly.
Take her to Agamemnon, Patroclus, but he will pay for this. I will refuse to fight. When the others hear of this, they too will refuse to fight also. And what chance will he have then?
Achilles' refusal to fight fuels the discord of the Greek forces, and Agamemnon is unable to lead them. The war is at a standstill.
Atop the walls of Troy, King Priam, Queen Hecuba, and the royal family look with suspicion from the palace battlements.
I can't understand. It's been days since the last attack. Perhaps the defenses were in the data last. When will they next attack?
Many women have lost fathers, husbands, and sons. Our people are suffering. Perhaps the gods are merciful. Helen, do not look so pale.
Fairness does not affect her beauty, or our people are willing to die to be in her presence and possess her.
Just then, Hector, Prince of Troy, rushes up to them.
Father, you've spoken too soon. The armor of Achilles is leading forces to our city gates. I will stop him and stop this raid on our city land.
From the battlements, they watch.
A short time later, Hector returns carrying Achilles' armor.
Father, here's the armor of Achilles. If the man I killed was not Achilles, what could this mean?
Achilles, who has been brooding in his tent, discovers his armor missing.
Just then, Ajax and Odysseus run in, bloodied and disheveled.
We all thought you were leading us to the gates.
We followed you and saw you stuck dead.
But it wasn't you. When we removed your helmet, it was Patroclus.
What? My best friend? Slain? Who is responsible?
Prince Hector, son of King Priam and Paris' brother.
Achilles runs out of his tent, not to the gates of Troy, but to the shore where he calls to his mother, the sea goddess Thetis, for help.
Thetis commands that new armor be made for her son by the god of fire and metal. Achilles' new armor is impervious to weapons of any kind. With it, he runs out into the battlefield.
Hector sees the new armor and hears Achilles call to him. He kisses his wife and baby and meets Achilles at the gates.
You killed my best friend Patroclus. He was honest and good. You must die.
My eyes are deceived.
Prepare yourself.
They fight.
And Hector is overcome. He falls. And from the ramparts comes a wailing from the women of Troy.
To the astonishment of all, Achilles ties Hector to his chariot and drags his body around and around the outer walls of Troy.
For days, Achilles drags the body of Hector around the walls of Troy.
Never have the Trojans seen such brutality. But finally, after a proper ceremony for Patroclus, Achilles retires to his tent with the body of the slain Hector.
Achilles, I have come to retrieve the body of my son, heir to the royal house of Troy.
This body is a prize of war and retribution.
I brought gold and chased my son. I understand that 25 ducats is appropriate.
Put the gold on the scale.
Priam and his daughter set the gold onto the scale.
The gold you brought does not meet the conditions.
Polyxena, with tears in her eyes, steps forward and removes a heavy gold chain from around her neck. She puts it on the scale with the gold coins. The scale tips.
Achilles, his heart overcome by her sorrow and loveliness, finds that he has softened.
Please sit down, Priam, and tell me if things have come to this.
They talk of their sorrows until late in the evening. All the while, Achilles grows more and more fond of Polyxena.
Finally, Priam, noticing his daughter's effect on the Greek warrior, offers her hand in marriage.
If her marriage will mean an end to the misery of my people, then I give it to you.
I accept the offer, but it must remain a secret at present, as I am not my commanding officer and will have to speak with Agamemnon about this.
Achilles embraces Polyxena and takes her hand.
Dear lady, forgive me for the misery I have caused on you and your people.
Meanwhile, allies of the house of Troy have arrived. And as their numbers are great and their warriors fresh, the Greeks take a beating.
Soldiers came from as far away as Ethiopia. Ajax rushes into Achilles to urge him onto the battlefield.
Achilles, the fierce Amazon warrior women have come to fight. We need you.
I can rehearse this fight, but I can't refuse you. Get my armor.
They join the melee on the plains of Troy.
Achilles is rushed from all sides, but a strong Amazon tests his strength. They fight at length until Achilles takes a deadly blow. As she falls, Achilles tears off her helmet. They recognize each other as soulmates.
Penthesilea, queen of the Amazons?
Great warrior, Achilles, you have slain one who has always loved you.
She dies in his arms. In a rage, he lashes out and kills the king of the Ethiopians.
The next day, Achilles sneaks out of camp and meets Polyxena at the temple of Apollo. This is not the first of their meetings. They have spent much time together, talking about their families and their future.
Polyxena, seated beside him on a bench, tells of her childhood. Achilles tells her of being dipped in a magical river as an infant so that he would be immortal. And except for the fact that his heel is vulnerable, he is as immortal as mortals get.
And as they talk, Achilles grows to love her and looks forward to an end of the war.
Tell me once more about your trip to Delphi.
There will be no more tales to tell, save for the tale of your death.
Polyxena calmly stands and steps aside. Achilles realizes he has been betrayed. He draws his sword.
How could you so willingly turn away your future?
My future was destroyed when you killed my brother Hector. I despise you, and I would take great pleasure in avenging my brother's death.
Paris lets fly a single arrow. It hits Achilles in his heel. A perfect aim. Achilles cries out in pain. He falls. Polyxena and Paris hear voices. They leave the temple.
You came in this way. It's a good thing we followed him. I knew he was up to something.
Oh, he is slain. What will become of us?
Ajax carries the body of Achilles back to the Greek encampment on the beach.
From the sea, a great wailing begins, and a foamy froth at the shoreline begins to churn. The sea is disturbed.
Out of the depths comes Thetis. With her come the sea sisters. They prepare the body of Achilles for the funeral pyre. His ashes will be mixed with those of his friend Patroclus.
Great is my woe. My son Achilles, taken from me after I've worked so hard to keep him out of harm's way.
Great sis, release her from her pain.
As a babe, I hid him on. As a babe, I dipped him in the immortal waters of the river that grants everlasting life. Achilles' heel was his only weakness.
Great sis, show your mercy.
As a youngster, I gave him the best tutor a boy could have.
Great sis, her misery is endless.
As a man, I hid him on an island determined to keep him from war. Poseidon, god of the sea, will join me in ending the royal house of Troy.
Athena, protector of Achilles, proposes a vote for the arms of Achilles, his armor to the best soldier of the Greek forces.
The warriors must choose between Odysseus and Ajax. Agamemnon broods over not being nominated.
Here are 2 jars, one for Odysseus, one for Ajax. Let the votes be counted.
Athena, fond of Odysseus for his clever strategies, sees to it that he has the most votes. Agamemnon peers into the jar, then whispers to Athena.
It has been decided by the soldiers of the Greek forces that Odysseus will receive the arms of Achilles.
Stunned and silent, Ajax looks off into the distance. He does not notice when the rest of the soldiers leave.
In a rage, he leaves his tent to track down Agamemnon and Odysseus.
But the goddess Athena sends madness into his body, and instead of slaying men, he smokes down swine, used to feed his fellow soldiers.
When the madness leaves him, he is bloodied.
What have I done? I am ashamed. I cannot live with such shame. It is my purpose to bring down men. My powers have been wasted.
And Ajax falls on his sword.
Days later, Priam watches as the Greeks burn their encampment, load everything onto their ships, and sail off.
Puzzled, he assembles a group, which includes his daughter Cassandra and Laocoon, priest of Apollo. They investigate down at the beach.
What is this, a giant wooden horse?
Before them, in the sand, was mired a wooden horse as tall as a house, and it was on wheels as if transported there.
The group stands mystified at the bizarre creation.
Perhaps this is a gift to a god or goddess.
Beware the blood of the citizens of Troy.
Priam puts his arm around his daughter. As a girl, the god Apollo had given her the gift of prophecy in exchange for her promise of love.
But she broke her promise, and he punished her by preventing her words from being believed, and her gift became a curse.
Dear girl, you know not what you say it is. It is a majestic structure. Let us take it into the city. Surely it is meant as an offering, perhaps to Athena for the Greek violation of her temple.
Take not this strange gift, which is an omen and the end of us all.
Lycoon, priest of Apollo, you speak too hastily. Let's examine it further.
Beware the hear the warnings, the end is near.
Suddenly, 2 sea serpents slither up the beach, wrap themselves around a struggling Laocoon. Screaming in agony, she is dragged into the sea.
Horrifying, forwards must be false. Let us bring the horse through the gates and into the city.
Priam directs the gates to be opened, and the great structure is wheeled into the city.
There is much singing and dancing, celebrating the retreat of the Greek forces. Children put flower wreaths around the horse's neck and toss blossoms at its feet.
The festivities last until the early hours of the morning, and when the last soldier on guard has fallen asleep, the belly of the horse opens up.
I told you my plan would work. They are ours for the taking.
And a band of Greek soldiers begins cutting a path of destruction across the city.
Round up the royal family, burn the city so that nothing's left higher than my knee.
While another group run to open the gates, the other side of which waits the entire allied Greek forces, who had been hiding off the coast. The ancient city falls.
The next morning, the women of Troy are brought before the Greek warriors.
Their men killed, they are at the mercy of the victors.
As Queen of Troy, I beg mercy for my family.
As Queen of Troy, I have no voice. As the leader of Greek forces, I desire a lovely daughter Cassandra.
And for her part in the death of brave Achilles, Polythene will be sacrificed at his tomb, and you, Hecuba, will be taken to help with my wife and kid.
Menelaus approaches Helen and puts his hand on his sword.
His wish is to strike her down for the suffering of so many.
But when she turns to look at him, his love is new, and he takes her back as his wife.
A soldier, Hecuba the queen, pushes aside to reveal the last of the royal house of Troy, Hector's son.
Take the child from her.
You have taken my son, husband, and grandson. Have mercy.
There to the royal house of Troy shall not live, thrown from the walls. Gather the gold and load the ships. After 10 long years, Helen has been returned, and we all can go home.
But home they go not.
Many adventures and tragedies befall the Greeks after the Trojan War, and no one can finish a tale better than Homer himself.
The hero Odysseus goes on to have many adventures. Between Troy and his island home, he encounters a cyclops, a sorceress, beautiful but deadly sirens, and a host of supernatural horrors. It will take him 10 years before he reaches his wife, Penelope, and he loses all his men before his journey is over. Menelaus and Helen are dogged by the gods. Their ship is blown all the way to Egypt, and they don't reach their home of Sparta for 8 years. As for the other Greek warriors, many return home to find their wives have taken new husbands. The lucky ones are banished, but the unlucky ones are murdered along with their queens. And as for the story of all wars since, the devastation of battle knows no end. for the effects of violence are felt for generations. And such are the tales of the ancients.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Up. They did a great job. Thank you again for joining us. I know it's an obvious battle story. We had to get creative with how we removed all of the dead bodies in our story, but I hope the story of love was not lost. This is a story of good loves and bad loves, and I think that transcends cultures and time, and so it is a good story for us to learn and to have committed to memory and to recite today. So please give them one more round of applause. They did such a good job today.
One more thing. Miss Martin, can you please, is this one? I hope so. Miss Martin, we have something for you. All of us here at Soda Escalade would just like to thank these two for helping put the play together. And we would all like to thank the parents for the contributions to the show. And
Very much. We appreciate it. Thank you again for joining us this evening. You are dismissed, and the